where are you right now?
Me, I'm at the Indianapolis Fire Department, Station 42. I've been a fireman for about 19 years now. Like the whole time I was involved with the UFC and I was a fighter, I was working the fire department too. So, kind of like the heavyweight champ Steve Miocic, he's been a firefighter for several years. He's still a firefighter right now. So even though he's a heavyweight, UFC world champion, he's still a firefighter. So
Wow.
It's a fun job. You enjoy going to work, and people would always ask me when I was in the UFC. They'd be like, "When are you going to quit the fire department?" I'd be like, I'm not. I like going to work, so that's where I'm at right now.
Do you train with the guys in your firehouse?
At training, as far as like fire training or like
Firefighting
boxing, MMA?
Well, both, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we do have a certain amount of stuff we're required to do all the time. You have updated trainings. You have to go. The city puts on certain events, and you have to go continue to up. That is one thing we're really fortunate about. We have a lot of respect, obviously, for police side, but fortunately for the fire department, I think we're much better as far as the training portion. We have continuing, ongoing education when it comes to EMS work, as well as your fitness is important. We do fitness evaluations every year. We have different trainings we have to go to where they might go in there and they might black you out where you can't see, and you got to get out of a building or find the dummy and give them air. So there's different things we're able to continue to do, I think, better than the police side. Like I said, I got two stepbrothers who are policemen, and I love the police side, but we're very fortunate on the fire side. We do a lot more training, I think.
Have you seen the Steve Buscemi documentary, A Good Job?
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize Steve Buscemi was a fireman in New York for 6 years.
I didn't realize that until I saw the documentary, and I was like,
He comes from a family of firefighters.
I had no idea, and I didn't really know a lot about firefighter culture, and I watched that documentary. And obviously, we all have a lot of respect for just the job of a firefighter, but I really got a lot of insight into the psychology and kind of the humanity of it, and I gained almost another respect for what you guys do, because not only, like, to your point, the physical aspect, you have to keep yourself in shape, you kind of have to, maintain that kind of your body as your temple, but also, the mental aspect of it. I was just really impressed at how just mentally strong a lot of those guys were.
Well, I think a lot of people, if they're not mentally strong when they get here, you become mentally strong or you don't last long because you have to deal with a lot of different things. You see a lot of things a lot of people in the country don't really get to experience, and a lot of people can't handle that. Most people do, and I think it makes them stronger for it. But you definitely have a good brotherhood here, and once again, I think most of the firemen you meet, if they don't like it, they quit pretty quickly, but everybody else who sticks with it, they love coming to work. I'll have time where if I'm off for very much time at all, I'm wanting to get back. Every time I've had a surgery or an injury, they got to stop me from coming back because I'm always trying to come back way too quick because I don't want to be gone. I don't want to be off. And I know, like I said, when I was fighting in the UFC, people would always be like, when are you going to quit the fire department? And I was like, I'm not. I've never woke up and said I don't want to go to work. That hasn't happened to me yet. And I mean, if you have that going on, why would you ever want to quit that? I don't understand why I would be like, I don't want to go. If I wake up one day and say I want to go to work, okay, I'm gonna start re-examining. But it hasn't happened yet, and I don't see it happen. I've been here over 19 years.
And I think this is one of those times where we always like to thank the people that protect us. That we thank the people that look out for us, and for all the firefighters out there, including Mr. Lights Out, Lytle. Thank y'all so much.
Hey, man, like I said, I appreciate that, but you got to understand, we enjoy doing this stuff, man. I mean, the thing is that got me involved. I wanted to do some things to help some other people, and it makes you feel good when you're able to help other people. Yeah. So to get the opportunity to come into work every day where you get to help people, it makes me happy to be here. It makes me feel good about myself. I go to bed, I'm happy. I wake up, I'm happy. And I think that's how most of these guys are. So although we really, appreciate the thank yous, but I do this if people were mad at me and didn't like it. It's what we're doing. That's why I feel bad for the police. They try to help people too. It doesn't always work out that way, but boy, it's always good. You show up there people are happy when you show up on the fire department. They ain't happy when the police show up no matter what. So I always mess with my stepbrothers. I say, you know what policemen and firemen have in common? They go, what? I go, they both want to be firemen. They hate it, but it's true. Just ask them. Next time you see a cop telling that, they'll be like, oh, it's true.
Last week, we were watching some of your bare-knuckle boxing highlights. Talk to us a little bit about how that came about, your experience currently in bare-knuckle boxing, and kind of the differences between that and MMA in the UFC.
Okay. Well, what happened was I remember, I started doing MMA back in 1998, a long time ago. I started doing pro boxing in 2002. Man, I just love fighting and kind of all aspects of it. I'd done a lot of grappling matches, a little bit of everything. So I retired from MMA, and I remember I was looking on Facebook a couple years later, and a friend of mine, Joe Riggs, had a bare-knuckle boxing match. It said, Joe Riggs, bare-knuckle boxing in London. I said, what in the hell's wrong with Joe, man? He's doing bare-knuckle. So I said, I got to watch this real quick. And after I watched it, about probably the second round in, I go, I kind of want to do this now, I was like, that's how you know something's wrong.
One
with you.
round?
He's crazy.
One round.
What the hell is wrong with him?
One round.
I'm going to do
I said, man, I can't consider myself a true combative athlete if I haven't done everything. You know what I mean? So I was like, I got to do it once. So I got a hold of the promoters in London, and they were like, yeah, we'll love to have you come out. So I was like, all right. I went out in London. I had a fight, and then I came back to the States, and I was like, can we get this legal here? I got shot down, and then a little bit later, I found out that somebody got legalized, and they asked me to fight. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. Of course, at the time, I was like 44 years old. So, I mean, if they would have had that 5 years ago, I'd have been all about it. But man, I'm having all these surgeries, my wrist problems. So I had a couple fights, but I told them I ended up with 3 fights, and I told them I want to transition into doing commentary for you guys because unfortunately, I got 25 years worth of knowledge in my head of how to fight people, but that doesn't do much good unless you're able to give it to other people. So I enjoy doing the commentary portion now and kind of explaining, the difference. Because a lot of people think it's like MMA. And I'm like, this isn't MMA and this isn't boxing. This is a great combination of the two sports. The thing with it's like MMA, not only can you punch, but you can grab the back of the head, you can do the tie plum, you can punch, you can move people around. That stuff's all illegal in boxing. So it's just a little bit different, but it's a great combination of those two sports that I love.
Speaking of the bare knuckle, we watched the Drew Lipton fight, and the guy with the red shorts. We were saying, obviously, you look great and you perform well, and you hit the guy with those just body shots that are just like rocking his world. But we were saying, like, man, that guy had a chin, man. That guy was kind of an animal. Like I would not want to run into that guy in like a regular setting.
In a bar and not know.
Like in a bar, like you were hitting him with some shots, and he was just kind of was like getting energized. Like this guy's kind of crazy, man. Is it?
I hit him with a good right hand and cut his eye open and knocked him down. He jumped up within 2 seconds. I go, good. What? What's go? I mean, usually people kind of lay there and kind of take a minute. He jumped up and he was all fired up. And that was pretty cool. I talked to him afterwards, and he, unfortunately, he was just a big fan of mine. He was like, can I get your autograph? I'm like, wow. You're not supposed to give an autograph after you're fighting. But I was just like, sure. But I mean, just a nice guy, just a big fan of mine. So he was just fired up and wanting to come out there and give it a good show. So, I mean, he wanted to kind of impress me by jumping up as fast as he could when I hit him. He wasn't trying to play mind games. He wasn't trying to he just wanted to go out there and impress everybody. And,
he did.
I loved it.
I was impressed. One of the things that I've noticed about the bare knuckle fighting, and, I started reading about it and going all the way back to John L. Sullivan. He talked about how it was easier for him to fight with his hands in front because he was more worried about his face, but his elbows were down enough that he could always crouch and defend. And he said that 90% of the punches that he threw were to the body. And he's like, he didn't want to break his hand early in the fight, that he figured that I could hit him one time if I felt like I really needed to finish him. But I really wanted to sauce the body up. And when we watched you fight, and I saw like those body shots, and at one point you had him hurt, and he put his hands way up here to block from keeping getting knocked out, and you hit him with like 8 punches in a row to the body, bang, 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 bang. And I was like, look, I sparred with Butterbean before, and I thought I was doing my thing, and all of a sudden I threw a right cross at him and missed, and he hit me in the body, and I just went down to both knees. And it was like I was already in the praying position. Lord Jesus, thank you for letting me be in my right mind right now. But like, tell us, like, is that your strategy? I don't want to hit people in the face. I really want to work the body.
So my strategy is always going to be try and get in there and throw a good punch to the body and dig that in there, because if nothing else, it slows people down, but that might stop the fight. So I was always trying to hit. I mean, even as a professional boxer, I was a body puncher. I mean, I was never a one-punch knockout guy. I was more of a grinder, like a Julio Cesar Chavez, get in there and beat you up for a long period of time. Matter of fact, my best boxing match, I fought a guy from Philadelphia, very good, probably better fighter than me, knocked me down right away, but I worked his body the rest of the fight, knocked him out in the 7th or 8th round, because I was more of a grinder. So I figured that works in regular boxing. I knew it worked with bare knuckle fighting.
Have you ever been in a fight with somebody and you had hit them with everything but the kitchen sink, and they still are like a Terminator? They just keep coming at you, and you're like, shit, what am I going to do with this dude?
Oh, yeah. I remember, especially when I was boxing, I at one point, my first several pro boxing matches, I was looking real good, and I was knocking people out, and they go, okay, we're going to put you in with this guy, Chris, named Papa Moore. I go, Papa Moore, all right. And Papa Moore shows up, and he's got this crazy looking, like, dreaded up hair, and he had, like, stab wounds in him and bullet holes. I was like, 8 rounds with me isn't nothing for this guy, I can tell, you know. So I remember I'm fighting this guy, and I'm hitting him with my hardest right hand, uppercut, boom, and he just walking through everything. And it definitely ruined my confidence for a while, because I thought I could knock out anybody. And I'm like, you're not knocking out everybody, Chris. It's just, I mean, I thought maybe my power was leaving me all of a sudden, but it wasn't the case. It was just, this guy's tough. You're not knocking everybody out, but that definitely throws you for a while. Like, I don't know what to do with this guy. I'm hitting this guy with everything. Luckily, I was winning the fight, but I couldn't knock this guy out, man. I never did knock him out, and it definitely threw me. And then I realized, that's when you learn how to fight. You know, you learn, okay, you have to decide when you're going to throw hard punches and when you're not going to throw, and how to move and how to win the fight, even if you can't knock it. You should always try and knock them out, but not going to knock everybody out. But it definitely was a humbling experience that made me realize that, you know, it brought me down from up here to where I needed to be. So my management and my team did a good job by bringing me in there with Papa Moore. Papa didn't have a great record, but he's one of the toughest guys I ever had to fight. So.
Wow.
Last night during the Ferguson fight, I'm noticing Ferguson punching to the thigh. He was like, a lot of his strategy seemed to be leg punches. Have you ever seen that before? And what's your thought on that?
You know, I've seen and felt Matt Mitrione's done that to me a lot, you know, because he's, first of all, Matt's such a bigger guy than me. He's got real long length and wingspan compared to me. So he'll hit me in the thigh sometimes. I'm always like, the hell you doing, man? That doesn't make, I don't like that. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, kick me if you're going to do that. I mean, I don't know. Try to take the legs out in any way you can. But to me, I don't really like that as a strategy. I guess if in a really long fight, maybe those 5 rounders, I guess it could pay some dividends. But to me, you're putting yourself at more of a risk than it's worth, because you got to get your head a little bit closer to throw that punch to the leg where they can counter. I didn't like that fight to begin with for Ferguson, because there's nothing much to gain from it. I mean, the kind of guys who beat Gaethje are the guys who can hit really hard, because he's going to walk through your punches and kicks, and he's going to chop your legs out. You know what he's going to do. He's going to throw hard punches. The people who beat him are able to knock him out and hit him with power punches, and that's really not Ferguson's game. So I didn't like him taking that fight to begin with. But, I mean, I know to be a good fighter, you have to be almost the right – it's like unrealistic. You have to be delusional that you're the best no matter what. I mean, you got to be able to lose, to get your ass whooped, and be like, "I ain't never going to happen again. I can win again tomorrow." I mean, you got to kind of be delusional. I think Ferguson was at that point. He felt like he couldn't lose. And as a good fighter, you have to believe you can beat everybody. So you can't duck people. It doesn't take us. I mean, that's not necessarily smart. You need a good, smart manager, but his management team should have told him, hell no, you're not fighting this guy. He's dangerous, and it doesn't help us. We need to get you fighting for this title. But, hey, I think they probably told him that, and Tony said, I'll fight any man, anytime, anywhere, and he did it, and this is what happens.
Just kind of going back to the Ferguson fight, we were kind of talking about maybe the matchup of styles wasn't the best, going into it. I'm also hearing that people are saying maybe the weight going down in the weight cut and the time may have affected Ferguson. Weight cutting has always been a really fascinating to me for combat sports, just because the whole concept of, okay, I weigh this much as a regular person, and now I'm gonna like put my body through like trauma to like put it through some more, to put it through some more trauma in the fight. Do you feel like weight cutting can affect you negatively if your training schedule's not up to, because you have to cut weight, but you may not be training the whole time. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, the weight cut is always a part of it. It's always a damaging part of it, and it's always something that's not good for you.
Right.
Unfortunately, most of these guys have been doing this such a big portion of their life. Their body kind of adjusts. I mean, every time if we have somebody who usually fights at 185 and they go, I'm going to cut to 170, we tell them you have to do a trial cut like the month before your fight, because the first time you make weight, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to perform well. How many times have you guys seen a guy fight in UFC and they go down weight? They always lose the first time because it's not a good. Your body doesn't handle it. The more they do it, the easier it gets. So I don't know if I would say Ferguson lost because of that. He definitely didn't look to be the normal Tony Ferguson. It could be a lot of things. So was that the reason why? I don't think so, because that's just part of it. That weight cut is always going to be there.
I left the night thinking last night, going, how being a ref in the UFC has to be so fucking hard. I watched the Calvin Kattar fight, and I was like, man, I wish he would have stopped it a little sooner to save Jeremy Stevens's big gash on his head from that last elbow Calvin threw. Yeah. And then I watched the Cruz fight, going, man, I wish he wouldn't have stopped it because Cruz was getting up, Yeah. And I was, I really agreed with the stoppage of the Ferguson fight, just like, this is over, right? And I was just going like, I don't know, like, if there's just split seconds to get in there, and that just seems like such a tough fucking job. Can you speak a little bit on like just like how that feels to have a ref stop something before you think it should be stopped? And sorry, one more thing. Cruz said after the fight, he says, I told the ref not to stop it. Does that have any effect on the ref? Like when the fighters before the fight says, no matter what, let me go out on my shield?
Well, I got to be honest with you. Before every one of my fights in the UFC, the referee comes in and talks to you, and I would explain to him. I say, look, I've been in a lot of fights, never been knocked out. I've been knocked down, so I'll be all right, and I know what I'm doing. If somebody gets me in the arm bar, I'll tap if I can get out, but don't stop it. Give me every opportunity to keep going. And they'd be like, all right, Chris. I'm like, now, if you're laying there unconscious, I'm like, if I'm unconscious, stop it. But if I'm not, give me every benefit of the doubt. That's all I'm asking. And they take that into consideration, knowing who it is. If some guys aren't very, like, say what you will about Brock Lesnar, one of the toughest guys out there, but I don't think he like getting hit. He would ball up sometimes. And so you got to know someone, if they don't want to get hit and they're not going to defend themselves, you have to stop it. If you got a guy who's very game and no matter what, you have to know who's fighting. And if they ask you for something, you take it into consideration. If they're laying there not moving, you stop it no matter what. If their arm breaks, you stop it no matter what. But otherwise, like I said, but if a guy comes, he's like, hey, I'm a little worried about this one, then you're going to stop it earlier. So I think it's very important to talk to the doctor, but they're not, or the referee, but they're not going to let you get hurt if you're not, you know what I mean? Just because they said don't stop it. I don't know. I think I would definitely give the guy more leeway if he comes to me and says, I'm going to be fine, let this fight keep going. I would if I'm the referee, and I think most of them do.
What'd you feel about all those stops last night? Did you agree with all of them?
Well, like, I felt bad. Man, there were some people getting wrecked last night. A couple guys whose eyes were messed up. That Nico Price, I thought that was a great fight, by the way, and then he got popped at the end and his eyes swelled up, and that was more of a doctor stoppage. But I think right now, especially kind of being under the microscope as being an only professional sport right now, really doing stuff, they had to err on the side of safety. I got no problem with the way they did anything.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, you're under the microscope already. The last thing you want is more blood and have everybody look at you like, okay, this is barbaric. Even though it is, I mean, it's a fight game. It is a fight game. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that stoppages should be just I think the fighter should have some say-so. And I've always thought that. I felt like the fighter should be able to say, no, I can go. And if he can put a sentence together and say, hey, no, don't stop it, I can go, let him fight. If he goes out on his shield, he goes out on his shield.
Yeah.
But you know, all
agree more.
warriors are looking for an honorable death anyway.
I mean, if you're a fighter who's been like, I get it. If you're an amateur, no. If you've been fighting professionally 2 years, no. If you've been fighting as a pro for 10 years and this is what you do, I mean, who are you to say what I can and can't do now? If like I said, if I'm unconscious, stop it. If I'm going to get killed, stop it. But if I have any say so, I think I should be allowed to keep going. This is my, like I said, this is my libertarian principle. This is my life. I should be able to do with it what I want. Like, are you going to stop me from hitting myself in the head with a hammer? No, then why are you going to stop me from doing it? I have the right to do what I want, man.
Chris, thanks so much for being on with us today. A couple of last things I want you to touch on with everything that's going on right now. When can we expect to see you commentating again for bare knuckle boxing and B2? Do we have any idea when we're going to get things up off the ground with those two?
Bare knuckle, I'm thinking we got our next one. We're scheduled for back in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, I believe, June, maybe 20th, right around here, 22nd. I'm hoping that one is still going to go through. That would be great. We really need that. Maybe it was July. I think it's in June. But that would be great if we could get that going on. They were talked about doing one in Florida with no fans, but I think, man, the one we have set up. We have Nico Hernandez, who's a bronze medalist in the Olympics, and he's from Wichita, Kansas. So I know we were trying to put one on there with him. He's a big ticket seller. That'd be great. So hopefully in June there. B2, I don't think we're going to do anything until probably September right now.
Can you elaborate on B2?
A lot of places, they're not really open. We're not going to do anything that they won't allow, that the states aren't going to allow. We have to wait for them to kind of make everything legalized. And I hear the next one we're going to have is going to be September 12th. So I really can't wait. I was so upset. We had the B2 fighting series was really kind of hitting on all cylinders. We were in about 10 different states at the time. We're putting on a lot of good fights, developmental league, and things were going well. And then this derailed us. Same thing with the bare knuckle fights. We really started to have the biggest gate we were going to ever have on. We're going to sell about 5,000 tickets in Kansas, and then that got derailed. So I just can't wait to get stuff back to going the way it is.
What is
life
B2?
needs to get back to normal as soon as it's safe. I don't want to see anybody take unnecessary risks. But I mean, and if that's September, if it's like whenever it is, I just want to make sure that we get it as soon as possible safely.
Chris, what is B2?
B2 it's awesome. It's a developmental league we have for fighters. Part of the problem when it comes to like the UFC is there's about 3 really big hubs where people fight. Down in Florida, you got like American Top Team. You got Greg Jackson's out, in New Mexico. You got California. But anybody from the Midwest or different areas, like if you get good, like you kind of have to go somewhere else to continue your career in a way if you want to make it. So what the B2 fighting series is we bought up 5 different promotions right now in the Midwest and the South. We got Alabama, we got Iowa, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois. So we're trying to get all these like local fights and kind of create like a series in there. So we're getting the best guys, a champ from each of these different organizations fighting each other. So it's not just, a lot of times they get little guys who fight in local circuit a lot and they try and send them to the UFC. It didn't work. We need to get people who have more battle tested, more experience and letting them fight all over the place around the Midwest and the South. Get to the point we think when they go to the UFC, they're not going as an opponent. They're going to win, and they're going to stay. And they don't have to leave their home and their family and move down to Florida if they want to make it happen. They can still live where they live. And we're trying to help the gyms out. We're trying to help the organizations out. We're just trying to develop a legitimate minor league system, you could say, or developmental league. It's like, baseball, I consider it, we're like a single A, double A, and a triple A. I mean, we got guys who are right on the verge of going to the UFC. We got amateurs who've never had a fight before. So we're kind of that bridging the gap between the UFC and the Midwest and the South part right now. So we're looking to expand. We're talking about going down, in Kansas and Oklahoma and maybe part of Texas. We still got plans of doing some of this type of stuff. But like I said, we were really hitting on all cylinders when this Corona came in and kind of knocked us back a couple months, but we'll see.
Yeah, when you get back on track, you got to invite us to a fight.
Oh, I'd love
come
to.
check it out.
What you got there?
Put your hand out. Let me give you a little. It's sandy time.
A little hand sanitizer.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, We got to make sure
Feel clean
everybody.
already.
We got to make sure that everybody stays clean. Keep your hands Wash your hands, guys. Stay safe. Chris, man, it's been so good to have you on. Just promises you'll come back. That we always ask everybody, please just come back one more time.
Hey, I love hanging out and talking with you. I'll come on anytime you want, man. Like, make me another host. I'll be the fourth one.
All right.
There we go.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a good one.
All right, man.
See ya.